Day 3 of our 5-day waiting period. Once again, we've looked at the conditions and we're going to go on hold. But Dave's going to give you a little insight on reading the charts.
One thing for sure, you cannot manufacture surf. You've got to use the conditions that are provided for you by Mother Nature. And from tradition, I think the first thing we all look at is a synoptic chart, which is what you see here. And I guess if we run the sequence of events from what we're looking at now from midnight tonight, you can see how the low pressure, there's a kink in the low pressure, but consistently we've got westerly winds, which is obviously driving the swell into us, obviously poor weather as well. But over that period of the next 3 days, we've got low pressure sitting out in the Atlantic, driving the westerly winds in towards the Atlantic, creating a lot of swell for us. So we're going to see swell between 4 to 8 foot over the next Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. And there's a little kink of a low pressure which will come through on Friday, which probably gives us a good opportunity for maybe some offshore winds. So we're going to look at it on a daily basis. We're going to look at it tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see some good conditions, and we'll see that low pressure come through, and it'll materialise with good offshore winds. We've got two forms of pressure, obviously going down to the basics of synoptic charts. We have low pressure and we have high pressure. The tighter the isobars, the stronger the wind speed. Obviously what creates swell is wind generally. Wind creates swell out in the ocean and it drives it in a direction whichever the wind direction is going to go. Now in an ideal situation you'll have a deep depression out in the middle of the Atlantic creating winds towards us which will create the swell. And then locally near us would have an offshore winds from another depression or a high pressure or etc. But what you see here is you see a low pressure, this is the low pressure I was talking about in the Atlantic, and you see these lines of isobars which are driving wind in this direction. Now naturally what happens is you have a low pressure and you have a high pressure, and invariably where something's high pressure it will drive towards low pressure. So you have a wind which will drive along the isobars but tending towards the actual low pressure itself. So you see we've got southwesterly winds forecast and roughly you can see westerly, so southwesterly wind coming through. Now if we go through the sequence of events over the next couple of days, we're going to see low pressures coming through. This one's sitting out there on Thursday, then coming through. But we see another kink forming here for possibly Friday. And you see this little low pressure here? This is what we're kind of hoping on. We're going to come down and look tomorrow. There's a good possibility it'll go tomorrow. But we see this low pressure forming here. And we see this kink in the isobar, which will drive these winds a little bit more southerly and give us that opportunity to have a bit more offshore winds for Friday through midday possibly. So that's what we're hoping on at the moment, but we are going to look at it tomorrow. Conditions do change all the time and this low pressure itself is just materialised, so we are crossing our fingers and hoping that we're going to have some great surfing conditions on Friday, but possibly tomorrow as well if the weather conditions change. So we'll keep an eye on the forecast and come back to the website for more information. I think generally you've got to look at across the websites. No one website is perfect for any one location. All websites give a generalised view, so you'd look at somewhere like Magic Seaweed is a starting point, so it gives you an idea on wind direction and what their prediction of swell is going to be. And then you go to something like Wind Guru, who again, that they're another type of website, do a similar program for finding what they think the swell conditions are going to be like. So check them. Sometimes you'll get difference between the two of them. And then, but for me, I always look at synoptic charts as well. Traditionally, they didn't used to be swell forecast charts, so I've always gone to synoptic charts as a basic and said, look, let's see what the synoptic charts would possibly provide. And you can make your own assessment of what the conditions are going to be. Okay, well they did several types of charts. We'll look at the charts first because that's kind of interesting. You have a pressure chart, you have a swell chart, which is obviously the one that we'll be kind of keen to look at first anyway. And they'll do 180 hours basically looking at the different types of swell. And you can see the swell as it forms, these lighter colours here in yellow and green obviously as well so they're coming through off the Atlantic Ocean, driving the swell towards us, and the arrows are in the direction the swell actually is going to go. They get it from several forms. They have wave buoys. They're out in the Atlantic Ocean. They have what they call wave models, which are basically on reports and synoptic weather situations. They form a model which creates an idea about what swell's going to be in the ocean, and they follow that through by putting that on a computer from the Met Office reports. They create these forms, these wave models for conditions all over the world. When we talk about swell, we also should be looking at the wave period of the swell. The wave period is the distance between each wave, effectively. The greater the wave period, the faster the swell travels, the more powerful the swell will be. So ideally we're looking for something which has greater swell period, and that will affect the wave itself and how you're going to be able to surf the actual wave itself. So if we're looking, ideally we're looking for something between 10 and 12 seconds. If you have anything more than 12 seconds, it's an extremely powerful swell and a fast moving swell. If you have something less than 10 seconds, then it's more a localized swell. It'd be something created by the wind conditions that's around. So always look at the swell period if you're looking at when you want to go surfing somewhere. So possibly last but no means least, the chart that you would look at is possibly this wind speed and direction chart. Obviously the wind speed and direction, depending on the location you're going to surf, will be the decider on whether you're going to get clean waves and how clean the waves are going to be, or whether they're going to be cross-shore or onshore or offshore. And so it's an important fact to look at. Obviously you've got the swell which is coming in from the Atlantic, you've got the swell period, the speed of the wave as it travels, and then you've got the wind, which is how clean are the waves going to be when you go out in the water and surf them. And so from this chart you can see basically, I think we've got from here tomorrow onwards, you can see the larger the arrows, the stronger the wind, and obviously the deeper the colours, the stronger the wind as well. And the direction of the wind comes from the arrows. So if we look at what we're looking at for, let's say for instance, tomorrow, we're looking at 3 p.m. coming through before this low pressure. This is the low pressure as it comes towards us with this wind speed coming up off the southern edge. And just in front of that there's a south southerly wind which is hitting us around about midday tomorrow, midday on Friday that is, and hopefully we're going to get some of that on Friday. However, these conditions can change and we must monitor the conditions all the time, making a decision. It could be a lot better tomorrow and we may go on Thursday, but at the moment the best chance of good surf conditions at Fisher and North Fisher Beach for this week is looking like Friday. If you look at the hour-by-hour report, which gives you the most detail for the timing, for the wind speeds, the swell direction, and the swell period, you have to go through it the course week. As you see today, we've got a strong swell period, which is great. We've got a large swell, which is in the ocean, which predicted by Magic Seaweed is a lot bigger as it hits the beach. Now, because of the size of the swell, probably today it's quite big and it's all mixed up, as you see on the camera that we saw earlier today. We do have a possibility of the wind coming around a bit more southerly or southwesterly today, but it's still going to be consistently onshore throughout the course of today. For that reason, possibly one of the major reasons is we've called it off for today. Tomorrow, if we go into Thursday, we've got a southwesterly wind forecast, which again is onshore. We've got quite stronger winds tomorrow, so it's not looking great. The swell period is still reasonable. It goes from 13 seconds to 9 seconds to 10 seconds. So later on in the day, the swell period improves and it gets a lot better. But if we go on to Friday, we have 11-second swell period. We have a manageable swell size. I mean, it says here between 8 to 10 foot ocean swell, and what it predicts on the beach is between 6 and 8 feet, but reality probably will only be about 4 to 6 feet. And I think the wind's direction is really important. In the morning we have very light winds. We have wind speeds of 6 mile an hour, 3 mile an hour and 8 mile an hour about midday. In midday the wind, as we were looking at the wind charts earlier, goes around southerly or possibly a little bit of southeast in that, making it a little bit more offshore, helping to clean the waves up. It gives the face of the wave, makes the wave a lot smoother, allowing the surfers to perform better manoeuvres and be confident that the manoeuvres they perform they're going to make.